Hi guys, and welcome to Escape with Watch Reviews. My name is Steve, and today we're looking at the Matic Diver 200M, better known as the Seamaster homage. So this watch is on loan from a user over at Reddit, so a huge thank you goes out to Mr. Elwood for sending this into the channel for review. I know I appreciate it because this has been on my radar for quite a while, and now I really want one. And I know you guys appreciate it too, because obviously, more input is better when you're about to buy a watch and spend $180, $190 on one, right? Like I mentioned, retail price for this watch is about $186. I've seen the price drop a little bit, but nothing too drastic. And I think that's because, as it is, it's actually a pretty good value. So this watch comes in the gray dial with silver ceramic bezel, as you see here. It also comes in a black with black bezel, and it comes with a blue and blue bezel. And if you go with a Flita branding, you actually get a green with a green bezel for about $10 cheaper, actually. So yeah, just keep that in mind. They got lots of different dial colors and branding colors. I'm still not quite sure why he keeps bouncing back and forth between Matic and Flita. I think you should just stick with one, and I think it should be Matic. So the watch case is made of 316L stainless steel. The bezel inserts are ceramic on all models. It has a sapphire crystal, a screw-down crowns, screw-down case back, 200 meters of claimed water resistance, a stainless steel bracelet and clasp, and is powered by the PT5000 automatic movement. So I had the Flita Seamaster on the channel a while back. I'll leave the review for that. That's an older review, but yeah, this is basically just that, but an upgraded and an updated version of it. It's definitely worth the $80 over the Flita one that I had, and this definitely makes me want to pick up one again. I kind of missed that Flita, but it just wasn't finished very nicely, and they've since upgraded the bracelet and the Lume and all that stuff too, so we're kind of going to touch base on all of that throughout this review. So I definitely want one, but should you want one? That's what we're going to find out. Before we get into the review, do a wrist check here. We've got the Addy's Dive Black Bay 36, but it's 39 millimeters on wrist. Yeah, pretty cool watch. I'll leave my review link up here. But yeah, really enjoying this one, and it still has one of the coolest bracelet sizing systems I've ever seen, so go check that out. All right, so dimensions. So this is listed as a 41 millimeter watch. I'm getting 41.3 millimeters on the calipers. Case thickness is 14.3. We got 20 millimeter lug width, and lug to lug is a very compact 46.7 millimeters. And because this has the new female end link bracelet, it wears 46.7 millimeters. So 41 millimeters is kind of, you know, a little bit on the big side for what I personally prefer, but because of the case shape and because of the 46.5 lug to lug, this thing wears great. I just love the way this thing wears. You see the mid case here, it's pretty thin. It does have a slightly domed crystal and a pretty protruding case back here, so you know, 14.6 or whatever it was, it seems like a thick watch, but it definitely, in my opinion, does not wear like a 14.5 millimeter watch. Yeah, it definitely wears a lot better than those dimensions suggest. So I'm going to go outside right now and throw it on my wrist for you. And here it is on my 7.5 inch wrist, and I mean, you can see it just wears great, absolutely great. I love the colors on this thing. Lots of light play off the bezel numerals and the case and the bracelet. I mean, it's very balanced on wrist too, and yeah, I mean, I think it looks awesome. It looks really, really good. And here we are in some direct sunlight, and you can see even direct sunlight, no problems reading it. Lots of AR on the crystal. It does a really good job. Here's the down the wrist shot there, so it's nice and low to the wrist. Even, you know, the thickness was a little bit much, but on wrist it's a totally different feel. I just love the way this thing looks. I'm going to go throw it on some straps, and we'll get back to it. And here we are on a black Perlon strap. Just got these in the other day, and they're actually pretty nice, very comfortable, very lightweight, and perfect for summer. And I think the added texture looks really good. And just black, perfect strap for this thing, I think. One layer underneath the watch there. You can see it does sit up just a little bit, but still plenty manageable. And I think it looks good. And here we are on a Tropic strap. I think it looks pretty good. These Tropics look good on a lot of watches, so not really a surprise here. But yeah, it does look really nice. And here we are on a Milanese. I kind of wish I had a shark mesh to put this on, because that's a little bit more fitting than this one, but hopefully that'll give you a little bit of an idea of what the shark mesh might look like. Yeah, I actually don't Don't hate it, I guess. Still not my favorite, but yeah. I got some more straps though. Here we are on a bright orange rubber strap. I think it looks pretty good. What do you guys think? Yeah, I like it. And lastly, here we are on a brown rib NATO strap from cheapestnatostraps.com. And surprisingly, I actually like this combo. I just wanted to throw a little bit of color at this thing since it's been mostly dark colors. But yeah, that actually looks pretty good. What do you guys think? Yeah, I like it actually. Looks pretty cool. Let's go back inside though, and we'll get back to the review. So let's talk about the case finishing on this. So like I mentioned earlier, I had that Fleta, and I definitely think they upgraded or updated or improved the case finishing on this. You can see the mid case here has a horizontal brushing, goes all the way across, really nicely done. Pretty happy with that. And then the swooping lugs that you get from the Omega, it comes from the end of the lugs here and then kind of swoops up and across and around and then back down on this other side. It looks really good. You can see here the polishing is done really nicely. Transitions from the brush to the polish, they're a little soft. That's really my only complaint, but it's not something you really notice on wrist at all. So yeah, I'm just going to show them to you here. And you can also see the bottom edge of this case, bottom edge of the mid case here is also polished. So that just kind of visually slims down this watch. And it looks really, really good. And then on the insides of this this polished swoop here, I guess, it is also kind of an angular brush towards the lugs here. But it is really nicely done. You can see you've got polished crown guards. You've got a Matic signed crown there, which is tucked in nicely into those crown guards. Yeah, I think it looks really good. You do have a HE labeled helium escape valve. I'll let you determine whether that is a real helium escape valve or not. It is a screw down helium escape valve. There's no like red ring or anything like that in there, which I kind of wish they would have done, but whatever, not a big deal. You're just going to leave this thing tucked in the entire time, I think. The case back on this, it is a circular brushed case back here. It's kind of got your sapphire crystal and your specs around the outside there. It's that Seamaster style, so it shouldn't be too difficult to pull this case back off if you ever need to. But yeah, it is pretty nicely done, polished on the bottom of the case here. Everything is done pretty nicely, no sharp edges or anything like that. Unspectacular, but yeah, functional, and I think it looks fine. All right, so let's talk about the bezel. So first things first, bezel alignment on this thing was spot on. So this is a ceramic bezel insert. This is kind of a relief style, kind of like a Yachtmaster type thing. So it's got polished numerals, polished indexes, polished minute markers all the way around. And then the backdrop of it is kind of this matte gray. I think it looks really, really cool. It sparkles and plays with the light nicely. And it just looks cool. The only thing loomed on this is the Lume pip. If you do opt for the other colors, black, blue, and possibly green, I'm assuming green is also done, but I just didn't see any Lume shots of that one. The inserts are fully loomed, so keep that in mind. But on this one, you just have your Lume pip. The bezel itself, you can see it's kind of that scalloped look. It is all fully brushed all the way around. Really nicely done though. And yeah, I think it looks great. The grip on the bezel could be a little bit better, but I've never really had any issues except when I have these gloves on. So just keep that in mind. But the bezel action on this is fantastic. So I'm just going to let you listen to the first few clicks here. So it is a 120 click unidirectional bezel. There's absolutely zero play in it. It's a very solid feeling bezel. I absolutely love this bezel feel. It was the same in my Fleta. This is just great. I mean, it's such a solid feeling and sounding bezel, right up there with some of the other watches that I've had in the collection that I consider to be some of the best. So very happy with the bezel action on this thing, and even happier that the alignment is just, I mean, it's just spot on. Oop, I went one click too many. Let's try it again while we aren't looking at the camera. There we go. So let's see here. That right there is about right under the camera. So, I mean, it is just spot on, perfect. Absolutely no complaints with the bezel. All right, so let's talk about the crystal real quick. So there you can see it is positive for sapphire. So this is a double dome piece of sapphire crystal, very nicely done, very subtle dome. Yeah, you can see it right there. So there's no distortion on it, or very little distortion. It's got clear anti-reflective coating on the underside, so it really cuts down on reflections, makes that dial pop, and it looks great. I've got no complaints with this crystal. It was great in my Fleeta. It's great here. Okay, so let's talk about the dial on this thing, and the dial is absolutely spectacular. This is where they really stepped up their game. The Fleeta branded one, the old one that I had on review, was not a great dial. This one is absolutely stunning. So you, on this gray model, you have a matte gray top layer, and then you've got black, almost engravings. I don't think they're engraved. I think they're printed on the dial, this wave pattern. But it is really nicely done. It's kind of hard to show that they're glossy, but if you look down by the date window right now, you can see they are glossy, those black lines. It looks really, really cool. You have an applied Matic logo at the 12 o'clock position. Then you've got chronometer at the 6 o'clock, which is debatable, but I'm not going to really touch on that. And then water resistant, 660 feet, 200 meters in red, matches the red on the second hand, so that looks pretty cool. All the indices are applied really nicely, really straight on these, double applied at the 12, and then the 3 and 9 o'clock ones are straight as well. Everything is aligned pretty much spot on. I don't see anything misaligned on the dial, which is really nice to see. The handset on this thing are done really well. I mean, they sparkle nicely. They're chamfered, not chamfered, but they're kind of creased nicely. Right down the middle, you got a crease, so yeah, I mean, they just look really good. I'm very happy with it. Yeah, the second hand reaches right out to the minute hand long enough. I mean, this handset is excellent. I've got no issues with it. The lume on this watch is kind of a mixed bag. So I'm going to pop up a lume shot right now, and you can see all the hands, all the indices are BGW9 loomed, except the minute hand and the lume pip. They are C3 loomed, and that kind of pays homage to the original Seamaster. But in this case, the C3 lume, kind of the two most important things on a dive watch, if you're actually going to use it as a dive watch, start fading before the rest of the dial. The rest of the dial is very solid. Super happy with the lume on all the hands and indices except for the minute hand and the lume pip. Those ones, they start fading pretty quickly. But yeah, otherwise, pretty happy with the lume on this thing. So let's talk about the movement. So the movement in this thing, it is the PT5000 operated by this 3 o'clock screw down crown, again signed with that Matic logo there. And yeah, the crown, I think it's plenty big. It tucks in nicely there. Yeah, first position is the hand winding. Second position changes your date down here. I'm not going to change it. And third position changes your time. Everything works just as expected. It hand winds 40-ish hours of power reserve. And yeah, it's been accurate for me. It's been reliable for me and all the watches that I've had it in. Matic does claim that they regulate these movements, so I'm sure it might be a chronometer, but it's not officially certified or anything like that. So yeah, just keep that in mind. But supposedly he does regulate these things. I haven't timed this one. Maybe I'll post up a screenshot right here. And you can see what it is accuracy wise, but I've never noticed it off, and yeah, it's been fine for me. I've got no problems with the PT5000, and I like to see more and more watches use it. I do wish they would kind of slim down this watch, because I know this thing doesn't have to be this thick, but otherwise I'm fine with it. So let's talk about the bracelet on this thing. So the bracelet is a 9-link, so you've got these little polished things. Those are actual separate links. Yeah, it's pretty nicely done, actually. I was quite impressed when I took this thing apart and figured that out back when I had my Fleeta. So yeah, definitely nice that they did that. So I think the finishing on the bracelet has been improved. I know the Fleeta one had some issues with the ends of these links. These have all been cleaned up, so pretty happy with that. You do have female pivot end links, which is a big bonus. And then they are solid links. They are solid end links, I should say. They are solid links, and you've got screw pins for adjusting, but they're not typical screw pins. So it's basically you have 2 screws on each side here, and then they hold a bar that goes across all 3 of these things. So when you take out a screw here, you should be able to dump out a little metal rod, and then you can adjust your bracelet. put it all back together, put the rod in, put the other screws in, and then you're good to go. So it is a little fiddly. These screws are the tiniest screws in the world, so be very careful when you're adjusting this bracelet. Yeah, just keep that in mind. The clasp on this is a Matic branded clasp. As you can see here, 2 buttons, fully milled on the inside. You got no micro adjust. You do have a diver's extension here, so that's a good solid inch or so of diver's extension. Yeah, it's not something that I will ever use, but maybe someone will find it useful. I have actually used it to get the watch on wrist sometimes. Just eases in that. My only real complaint is this clasp here. You really, half the time it wants to close on its own, half the time it doesn't. So what I've been doing is just when I do go to close it, I squeeze the buttons and push it down, and then it latches fine. As for the finishing, everything looks pretty good. You got a brush finish on the top here, brushed on the sides. You got a nice little polished chamfer here. A little soft on those edges, but not too bad. The links themselves on the bracelet, very fine brushing. It's almost like a satin finish. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, I kind of wish they would match the bracelet a little bit more, or the case a little bit more, but you can see the difference here. So there's the really kind of a coarse brushing there, and then you've got a really fine brushing there. The polished surfaces on these links, it's such a small area to tell if they're bad or not, but they definitely look good even up close. So very happy with the case finishing on this thing, or the bracelet finishing on this thing, sorry. The bracelet itself, it is pretty nice. I mean, it's very fluid. It's very soft on the bottom edges here, so it's never been uncomfortable. It is a straight 20 millimeter bracelet, so it is pretty heavy, but that's in tradition with the Seamaster. So yeah, I know why they did it. I just don't like it, but it actually looks pretty good, but it is quite heavy, I would say, compared to something like a Submariner. So just keep that in mind. So there you go, guys. That's the Matic Seamaster homage, and it looks awesome, absolutely awesome. I'm very tempted to pick up this one, maybe a blue one. I'm not sure. Yeah, this gray colorway though looks so good. It looks really, really good. I do like it a lot. So if you are interested in this, I will be leaving an affiliate link down below. Please use those links. It really helps out the channel. I really appreciate it, and I know you know, once I get some more watches in, you guys are going to appreciate it. So yeah, thank you guys so much for using my affiliate links. If you guys have any questions or comments about this one, please let me know. I will do my best to answer them. And I think that's about it though. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.